Welcome, everybody, to another Thursday. This is Elisa with the Rebel Crone, and I'm excited to have my Thursday's chat with my friend Maurice. So, welcome, Maurice. Good to have you back.
Good to be here, Lisa. Sure is.
Yay. All right. Well, once again, as most of our viewers know, that we just let this whole thing roll and we'll see where it goes. I
Yep.
wanted to open the conversation up with something I've been thinking about lately, only because it's like really in our face. And that is on all different levels, is just this need for people to want something outside themselves to save them from their own discomfort, their own unhappiness, their own, problems in their life. And we're always tending to have this looking out there towards something else. And sure enough, there's all kinds of people that are going to step into that position. And it may be called, some people refer to as savior behavior, where that person or the thing is going to save, whoever it is from their condition. And, you know, I, and it's not something to be judgy about. It's something that it's just a deep, deep programming, I feel like, Maurice, that we're not taught about looking within. We're not taught that it's not, the answers aren't out there, that we are the center of our universe. You know what I mean?
I do. You know,
Yeah.
as you're posing the question, it occurs to me we were raised to believe that. And there's an old saying. I heard it attributed to the Jesuits some 500-600 years ago. Whether that's true or not, I don't know, but I've heard it that way. Give me the child for the first 7 years, and I'll have the man for the rest of his life. And effectively, as we are, the story, and this is across the board, across the world too. Cultures be damned, they're all the same. When an infant is born, they just naturally trust. They don't know any better, and their parents take care of them. Well, and I'll keep it more localized to America. Father knows best. The mother and father they are the authority figures. They're the ones that do the first training, and we're taught. And then as we progress through, then our teachers are everybody we learn from for most of our through our teen years, at least our early teens, until we get our own independence and stuff. But we're taught that knowledge is out there somewhere, and there's always somebody smarter than you that knows better. So you're always looking for the expert, the
Yeah.
one that knows better. And you're not taught to. We are not taught within our culture, our Western culture in particular, to do what you know is the real answer, which is to go within it and trust your own judgment. People learn that's part of the so-called process that we've gone through the years, the decades that we've been here doing whatever we're doing. We've figured that out, but we sure as hell didn't. We suffered the same kind of a thing, and that you just described. We look for the wiser people, the smarter people, the quote experts. Well,
Right.
the mass of society saw what experts will do for you in a grand scale across the world. Starting in 2020, it actually started, visibly in late 2019, but it got manifested in 2020 for the last 4 years. But in that 4 year period, a lot of people said, wait a minute, all kinds of ways. So there's been a massive growth also. Yes, normally people would do exactly like you suspected or you just described, okay? Only the rare ones would seek another course, the road less traveled kind of a thing.
Well, buck authority. I was just thinking, it comes to mind when you're talking, Maurice, is buck and authority. And
Yeah,
as
yeah.
kids, parents do have a position of authority, but I feel like in the raising of a child, and I'm not talking from experience, I never had kids. So theoretically, the raising of a child, that there is a point where you start to really teach them their autonomy and their self-governance. Like, how do you govern yourself? And, unfortunately, the authority figures out there, i.e. parents, which still keep trying to control. And then you go to school and there's control. And then there's the authorities. I mean, it just go down the list of all the authorities out there that are setting the parameters around what we are, let's see, hold on. Setting the parameters around, how to be. And I think that's how, when, kids typically they start coming through the stages where they need their autonomy, they're starting to stretch their wings and they rebel. I think the rebellion is coming towards the control pattern because it's too controlling, and it's just like, wait a minute, I want to exert some of my will in this situation. Mm-hmm. I know as a having little tiny kids and toddlers and little kids, I mean, there's a lot of willfulness going on there. It does have to be nurtured and contained because they don't know better. But it still goes on through life, like you're saying, that whole thing, even though so many people now it is a real big split. I think the big split that's happening, in our country especially, but in the world, is the one about and who is authority and who has the right to tell me how to be or what to do or try to control me. Because there's something innate in humanity that, yes, maybe there's a part of us that's looking for something outside for it, but by God, we don't like something outside exerting its will over us.
True, yeah. But you're right about bringing up the subject. A lot of people are looking for escape right now because things have gotten so really overwhelming on a worldwide scale. Geopolitically, that's the thing that occupies the surface level, especially of the mainstream news information coming in, and that's via social media as well. Things are coming to a head, and people can see that, they can feel that. Now they're doing their best to avoid it as much as is possible. That's self-preservation in action. One way is to not watch it. If it isn't part of your awareness, it's not part of your living reality on a day-to-day basis. That is one way. That's the isolationist policy in a way. The people that run to the hills, and that's attractive to a lot of people. Hell, it's attractive to me, and I know it is to most of our listeners, the people that do listen to this. And there's wisdom in that, but not everybody can run to the hills. There's a hell of a lot of city dwellers and people that are involved in their own little communities in ways that they can't just run away from, which we all know that's the case as well. So they're trying to cope under the circumstance, and they're having difficulty because what they've invested their whole lives in, what they've spent their whole lives doing and being, they can see isn't going to last the way that they thought it was going to, and they don't know which way to go. So they're seeking, and the looking for the what is savior behavior you just said. Though that's a version of what we were talking about just a moment ago. Looking for the authority figure that has the answer, and ultimately the only ones that are walking around in peace right now are the ones that have gone within. Done the work is another way of expressing it. Now, what is that work? I don't know. I don't know how to describe it, but I know that I know there's a difference. I know there's a freaking difference. You can tell it in a person when you meet them. You at least I can, and I know you can as well.
And you sure can. I know you got that radar because that happened between us when we first met. Yes. You came and pulled me aside. It's like, I see you. And it's like, I see you too. That's pretty cool. And you do. There is a resonance there that people see. But, it doesn't just because, and I had a nice chat with somebody that was commenting on one of my videos about how it's, no matter how much inside and how centered you are and going within and all that, it doesn't necessarily make everything easy. It doesn't mean like you're going to sneak through them, but you handle it in a different way. You still have your challenges, you still have, some ups and downs on things, but it's really different. It's a different ride than the ride where you're reactive to the
Yep.
things going on. It's just, I don't know if I can find the right words for it, because unless you've done that inner work, you won't know what I'm talking about. But if you've done it, that even though, like, my videos, Maurice, I try to be very upbeat and give people, like, all right, this is, encourage them and remember, let's get centered and let's do all these things. But it doesn't mean that I don't have challenges with feeling down and out. I don't have challenges with, oh my God, why am I doing this? I don't have feelings, and all this other stuff still comes through, but it comes through and moves out in a very different way than it did before.
That is true. You find that you respond more efficiently. Efficiently is kind of a neutral word, but it's efficiency it means accurately, appropriately as well, as opposed to wastefully and scattered. And there's only so much we can do as human beings, being humans. We do the best we can under the circumstances, and that's across the board too. Now, some people can't find their way out of a room if the door is open. They can't. Other people can design. They can do all kinds of things. So it's just a question of where are you when you are, which is kind of a silly way of expressing it. I suspect.
I think a couple of things there come to mind, Maurice, is one, yes, some people are, but they're meant to be in the room. They can't see the door. They can't see the way out. Well, they're not meant to, so they're to be in the room. Don't try to, here's the door over here, get out, you idiot. What, it's all there. It's like, no, let's have, some compassion and also some understanding that, we as spirits, we're incarnate, we're in an experience. If somebody can't see something, they just can't see something.
That's correct.
That's okay. They're not meant to. Right.
Yeah, that's it. That's another thing too. And that's something you learn too. You become less judgmental as you go. I mean, when judgmental, it's not passing a good, bad. It's error, a right and wrong. There really isn't wrong. There's error, but it isn't a right and wrong question. It's a accuracy or error. It's more what works and what doesn't work. And some people are more efficient than others. And that includes at the emotional level as well, or the spiritual level, even, is another way of looking at it. There's all kinds of ways of responding to any kind of set of circumstances. The more skilled people are the ones that respond efficiently, smoothly, accurately. All of they work their way through. They don't get hindered along the way. The ones that don't are less skilled. That's all. But
I like that word efficiency. I have noted here, responding with efficiency, because it is that when you start being more proactive in your life as opposed to reactive, you think a reactive takes a lot of energy, is very inefficient. Something happens and you're just spewing your energy and you're pointing fingers and you're accusing and you're judging. You're doing all low vibration stuff, low vibration, because it sends you in a turmoil, and it's not very efficient, because then it takes a lot to work through something like that. A lot of energy, a lot of emotional energy, a lot of mental energy, a lot of heart energy.
It does, yeah.
Go through your process and become more self-aware and more self-responsible, there is a sense of efficiency with it. Those things can still happen. You still can feel a certain way about it, know like, okay, this doesn't resonate or doesn't work, but there's an efficiency about it, because you're not like, you have an understanding that kind of puts aside the other all those old emotions. You just kind of go through it and you get to the other side of it with efficiency, with some knowledge, with
it's more smooth. It's smooth. You flow through it smoothly, as opposed to bumping into everything along the way and crashing stuff.
Yeah.
And the more that's as we grow, we notice that we become more vulnerable to things where when I can remember when I was a kid, I'd roll around on the floor like a ball for crying out loud. Well, I certainly can't do that now. And so we have to modify our external behaviors as we grow older. Well, that's also called maturing or aging yeah, maturing is a good word, but that's an internal process just as well. As
Yeah.
when we're young, it doesn't matter. We get to bounce around and bump into things and see what feels good, what don't feel good, and pass on and all that kind of thing. Well, it's an emotion. The emotional journey is very similar. As you grow older, you learn to avoid things and you learn to understand things that you didn't even conceive existed when you were 10 years old, for instance.
Right.
And that's that maturing thing, that aging thing, that growing thing. That's
Mhm.
that's what life seems to be the case. And the more some do it a lot quicker than others. You know, you hear about child geniuses and or about prodigies and all that kind of thing. There are people like that, but the mass of humanity don't quite, measure up to that level. So we're kind of talking about what I would call real people, the normal, semi-normal. Well, we're not normal like the dullards that normal is supposed to represent. They're not dullards either. They're just doing their thing the way they know how the best. And for me, if I can help them, that's what I do. And the less judgment I make, the happier I am about it, and probably the wiser I am about it too, because I don't know enough to sit and say to make categorical observations about people, good, bad, all that kind of thing. Oh, just step back. If they're trying to suck you into something, you know that, well, that's not for me. But that isn't the total story of them. My God, they spent however many years they are floating around this world, getting bumped around to you. So there is that sense of compassion that does flow also. And we have to remember that's also, judgmentalism is one thing, compassion is another thing.
Yeah,
And
the
we have to
complete
combine the
opposite.
two. We have to see clearly. Yeah, clarity is another word that comes to mind that we're talking about. With clarity, you know the right thing to do as opposed to all the different kinds of wrong things to do. You know them, but you don't do them anymore, not in the moment anyway.
And that changes over time, doesn't it, Maurice? It's like
Yes, it does.
what was right for me when I was younger is not right for me now. What's
Absolutely
right for
true.
me a year ago, because I was in a certain place in my life, that was right, but it's not right for me now because right now, I've grown, I've changed, and I've got a different perspective. And I mean, that's what we're required to do is just to do the best we can
In the
given
moment.
what we have,
Yeah.
and through the day it can change too. If I'm really tired, the best I can may be at a little different level than if I'm fully rested and centered. you
Hmm.
know, my best is a little better then. But it really is
Yeah.
about, it's really about this kind of efficiency. I think that spiritual efficiency is such a great little line there. And how that changes for you as a person, it changes for everybody over time. The
Yeah.
older I get,
Back to your question, which was an observation you were making, that it seems as if there's an awful lot of people looking for their escape mechanism, whatever it is, their savior.
Mhm. Yeah.
What that really is, bearing in mind what we just talked about, what that really is damn, I had it in my head too. Um, oh, I know where. Remember that wagon wheel I was talking about, with the center and the spokes and the rim, on the outer edges. All that really is talking about is the fact that they're still out there in the limb somewhere. Outwardly looking where the rubber meets the road, or whatever, the steel meets the gravel. Um, that's revelatory of that. That's telling you that they're still looking for the exterior, their savior. But that is the
Right.
answer to your
And their
question.
savior would be a smooth road. Is I just want a smooth road. Just somebody deliver me a smooth road. And
Right,
that's
and
looking at the
and they haven't
wrong
figured
point.
out. Yeah, they haven't figured out that isn't going to come from over the hills or out of the mountains or out of the sky. It'll come
No.
the only way, and that's that story you and I've been talking about, and a hell of a lot of other people talk about. Um, it's the internal journey, but they haven't got to
Mhm.
that point yet. But they're on their way to that point. Hopefully, they'll get there.
Yeah, whatever there is, right?
Yeah, or get to that point, whatever that is. Yes.
As far as we can get in this world, I've really come to terms with, there's only so much we're going to really figure out given the world the way it is, given the
We'll
time
never know it
period,
all. I don't
period,
care
and
the
all of
smartest
that, that
person
if
in the
we were
world
meant to
times.
know, you know,
Yeah, I was just going to say the smartest world person in the world times 10 still doesn't know it all. And of course, that kind of a person knows that. and
yeah,
there's just too much information. Some of it's
right.
competing. You got to weigh everything. There's just too much specialized. This world is bigger than any one of us in human form.
And
And
very different than what any of us can come up with. I did a video recently with a mutual friend of Maurice and I, with a woman happy. And so you can
oh yeah,
find the
yeah,
video on
huh?
YouTube. And we talked about what proposed to be.
Yeah.
I was talking about that video, but no matter what, like we don't really know what it is. And I don't know if we're really going to know until after we cross over, but it doesn't kind of matter. I feel like the older I get more efficient. And my thinking is I'm not going to worry about the things that I can't figure out and I'm not going to know. I'm going to be curious about them. I want to try to like figure it. I like to imagine and figure out, well, if it's not that, what is it? So God, yeah, read the ideas, look at YouTube, look at the videos, get the ideas from people what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
But I also take it all with a grain of salt, because how does it really change my life or move my life forward or make me a better person? Because this is the journey, like we're talking about, is here. So all that stuff out there, fascinating, fun to explore, all the truth or things, conspiracy things, whatever, we love that stuff. I love looking into it. But at the end of the day, how does that change things? It doesn't change things. If I knew that or not knew that, does it really change my responsibility right now to right action for right action's sake?
There
We
you
always come
go.
back to that one. You and I, when we're
Well,
talking, is the
I
right
will
action for
say,
right action's sake.
I
How
will
does
offer
that
this.
change that?
I will offer this on that. The more fruitful things person in your own narrow little worlds is our own narrow environments, where we actually have effect in a real way that we can see, feel, smell, and all of that. It's the normal daily things. It's not the big world things. The big world things, in a way, are a distraction from um, doing joyful things, doing eventful things, momentous things, even the little things. The little things in life are the most important. They literally are on a
Yeah.
one-to-one basis, in a moment-by-moment basis. We're not, most of us, probably all of us, but maybe there's one or two, somebody that's got power and you can direct a million people to do something. In listening, I doubt that though. Mostly we're just people trying to figure out or trying to share with others what seems to work the best and why.
Why? Because we want to be happy. Everybody
And
wants to
we
be
want to share
happy.
that too. We want others to at least see that it's possible. If they don't, if they're confused about it, they can see, well, there's two people talking here at least that have achieved a measure of it. Do we claim to have perfection? No, we don't. But we claim to know a hell of a lot more than we did 30 years ago about what works and what doesn't work.
I know more every day on it. I know more. I feel like I'm understanding how to drive this vehicle. We come into these physical
Mm-hmm.
vehicles that are a unique thing. We have physical bodies that function a certain way. We have minds that think a certain way. We have these emotions. We have all these aspects of being a human. And it's like a vehicle where this I always picture is like a vehicle that my spirit's trying to drive, but it's got free will. So the two got to come together and work. And it's just like, it's a challenge. We end up, we end up rebelling and we do all this stuff. But what are we really taught in school? How does any of our education actually teach us about how to be a human being? It's the whole human doing. It's all out there. It's all out there as far as what you do in the world, what the world does to you. It's just all where the rubber hits the road. That's where the game of life we are told is played, is that
Yeah.
interface.
But
And it's not.
that is
The
so
source
surface
of all that
level.
is the
It's
center.
it's
Is
at
the
the
center of
furthest
the wheel.
it's at the furthest extension of the rim, as you just mentioned. That's true. It's the surface level. That's the society that we find ourselves being born into, and we're taught that. And many people, the society's goal is to keep as many people as is possible out there in that outer rim. And of course, the internal journey is just the opposite. It's to get the hell away from that and to find the center point. Now,
Yeah.
it's not necessarily or normally defined in that kind of terminology initially. It's appealing then. That's that angst, that rebellion aspect of teenagers. That's part of it, but they don't recognize it. They just look and they say, fuck you, to the authority figures. And it's fun and they can get away with it. And they're even until they're 18 legally, they can even get away with a good measure of it. But after 18, society steps in and say, okay, no more of that. Join now or go to jail or something like that. So they get threatened with more external pain. And again, most people comply because it's easier. You're not people prefer peace and comfort and joy as opposed to being tortured one way or another, psychologically, emotionally, or physically.
Right. And you look at most of where people go off base and a lot of like criminal activity gets you in trouble, is a lot of it just comes from deep pain from their upbringing, from trauma perpetrated on them. And a lot of times drugs and alcohol are involved
There's
in
all
that.
kinds of things, yeah.
You know what I mean? Is just that they're trying to tamp down that pain and then deal the best way they can. How do I survive? How do I can find some sense of happiness? Maybe it's in a distorted, corrupted way, but the intent is people want food. People want,
Sure.
some level of comfort and some level of safety, and
Mhm. From a
society
social
does
planner's
not
point of view,
provide
that's
that.
where you want most of humanity anyway. A little bit above survival mechanism, survival level.
Mhm.
That's where you want them. That's where they're most dependent upon their authority figures around them to lead the way and tell them what to do. They're the most manageable that way. When people start
Controllable. Yeah.
controllable, exactly true. No, that's going, but you learn that that's the reality as you progress, and the more you learn about that, the more you reject it, and you start to seek to find other means by which you can coexist in this world. Then all of a sudden you hear the phrase be in the world but not of the world, and then you have to figure out what that means. And of course, most people in here listening know what that means. It's possible, but you can't be sitting. There's a lot that precludes a lot of the behavior patterns, job titles, things, how you do stuff. That eliminates those kinds of former ways where you are just strictly in the world in a reactive manner. You become proactive. Well, in your proactiveness, you're separating yourself from the external mass of society, and you have to go within then, or find co-conspirators, if you will, that are on the same general journey. And that's what we do. That's what we find ourselves doing.
Right. And there's something natural and right about that. It is
Apparently, yeah.
like seeks like. We want community. We should be naturally drawn if the synergy of your design of you with spirit is allowed to work, then the magic of synergy happens, as opposed to the opposite of it. And then, Maurice, when we're done with our talk today, I have a video I'm going to do. I went to the coffee shop this morning and I outlined this whole thing. It's going to be a doozy. It's
Oh boy.
called, the title of it is Hollywood, What's Really Going On.
Oh wow.
But it's going to be really surprising where I'm going to take this, because it's about structure. It's about
Okay.
how things are structured in this world, and everything that's in the structure is the reverse. Everything in the structure is upside down for manipulation. And that's kind of what we're talking about today is like, in a sense, is just how everything is set up for us, looking in that hierarchy to the top of the source, the top of the pyramid to control,
Mhm.
to, define the parameters, to, anything and everything. It goes from everywhere, from our banking, our politics, our law, our sciences, our entertainment, so that's just to me the whole thing. What I'm going to do in the videos is share how that's just indicative of the whole structure.
Right.
And so now we're getting to see the, dark and underbelly of it all, but it's not, should not be surprising because of the structure system. Anyway, so I look forward to doing it. It's probably gonna be the diciest video I've ever done.
Oh boy.
But break it down. I'm gonna break it down on my whiteboard, breaking it down. But it really it starts out, it's gonna pull in, the savior behavior thing, how we're all looked, we're raised in and contained in a hierarchical,
Yeah. Mhm.
yeah,
You can spell it
construct.
easier than you can say it, right?
I know. And then if I have to spell on the whiteboard, I'm a really deep doo-doo because there's no spell check on it. But we are in that. We are trained in that. We're contained in that. So it really is breaking free at all levels. And now we're going to be seeing how our entertainment has all been constructed on that too. And all the people that have been blessed with success in that range of things are the ones that have played the game, and they played the hierarchical game of the ones in control, and it's dark,
It
it's
is.
maybe blatantly dark, but
It is. I've seen it. I'm not Hollywood oriented at all, but I have been through uh, hierarchies, corporate hierarchies, and I've seen versions, and I've been through others. But in the corporate world, military, it's all the same. It's the pyramid. The higher you go,
yeah.
it, everything becomes secretive from those below you, need to know, and all of that thing. But there's still a level where everybody below is one, and then we're special. And it, it's God. I could go deep into it, but I don't think I
Oh
will, because
no,
most people know about it
I'm gonna
anyway.
go a little deep on my video with it, but
Good.
we can leave it at this, is that one of the clues you can have when you're looking at that kind of structure is how does the base fare compared to the top? And
Hmm.
there's your clue right there. Who gets sent off and gets killed in battle? The base. Who's
Boy.
buying the yachts and has the mansions? The top. How are their workers? They're barely making minimum. They're trying to survive. You look at that hierarchy and you say, does that actually trickle down in a fair way, in a balanced way with everybody involved? Is it really community?
No.
Is it really about? No, it's not. There's your first clue.
Yeah,
There's
that's
your
true.
first big.
The funny thing is, the people that we were talking about, which is us and people like us, we were talking about earlier, have figured out the less you're involved with that society, the better off you are. But you still got to eat, and you still got to clothe yourself, and you still got to house yourself in that society. But there's a part of you that says that yeah, I recognize the reality of that on an everyday basis, but that doesn't satisfy my heart. And I until you look around for people that are talking about, well, what is it like to do such a thing? And of course, where you're living, you're in a city too, but it's a smaller, well, to state capital, Santa
Oh,
Fe.
it's small. It's
But I
small.
thought so. I mean, it's still a city though. But I've been in some of this what I would call wide spots in the road in northern New Mexico. Maybe if they're lucky, they got a traffic light, halfway through, and maybe a gas station at the traffic light, and convenience store, and that's it. Um, you look at that and you say, well, they don't have to deal with all the bullshit I have to deal with. If just driving down the interstate or driving down a U.S. highway or something through the center of town, um, they don't even
Yeah, but
contend with that.
they still have to buy their loaf of bread. They still
Yes,
have
they
to pay
do.
their rent, their mortgage. I keep thinking back to the saying, well, that was attributed to the Master Jesus, and I like this one. It was something about give unto Caesar what is Caesar's. In other words,
That's right.
it's just, you play certain games because that's the game setup, right?
That's
There's a
exactly right.
monetary
That describes it.
outcome. there's the banks and all that. I don't have to be emotionally involved in it. I don't have to, but I do have to steward my money wisely. I do. If I want to invest, do I want to have, I've got to, that's parameters that I personally can't change. But what can I? My feeling around, am I going to be dictated by media and marketing to go and spend my money and go get stuff that I don't need and to, waste it away with things that aren't going to really bring me happiness? Or am I going to understand that what will bring me happiness? So it's like within the game, you can play by your own rules with it. But there's, we got money.
Okay, I'm going to share something that I know for myself. And I suspect you know for yourself as well. And I suspect others, if they don't absolutely know it, they sure as hell hope it's true. And they feel it's true already internally. They just haven't accepted it totally. Point being, you're not walking this path by yourself. And I don't mean because, you got a neighbor down the street that's a kindly person or anything. I'm not talking about that at all. There is a bigger picture to us than just this 3D humanity. This is something I know for myself. And in knowing that, it relieves a lot of the burden of survival from my spirit or my internal self as well. I trust. I already know I can't predict the future of who's going to do what in the next 5 minutes. So all I get to do is respond to what happens in front of me, and then respond and move on and grow or whatever, and be a human being. But I do it with a sense of I'm not alone in it, and in the aloneness is the not aloneness is positive. I trust that. Now, is it, there's plenty of people say, well, you're full of shit. You don't know what you're talking about. You're just pie in the sky and stuff. Well, that's what they can say, but that's how I walk through the world. And it works for me. And I offer it to anybody that wants, that understands what I'm talking about. I'm just sharing the fact you're not the only one that does that. And I don't have to convince anybody. If somebody asks, I'll tell them about it and let them know that they're not alone, but they just don't realize it. But, they have to accept that for themselves as a reality for it to be real for them.
Right.
It's a choice. It is a choice. They say we're in a free will society. That means we get to make choices. So I choose that. I could be just as deluded as fucking, I don't know anybody, but it's a happy place for me.
Well, you're not, I don't think you're deluded. Maybe that's why we get along so great. We both are. What I know to be true for me is that there's the illusion of separateness on this planet. That's part
Correct.
of this.
It's an illusion, though. We know that. We see it.
3D we are in. That's part of the illusion. But in the reality that feeds this reality, that brings this into form, that's connectedness. That's oneness. That's harmony. Nobody's alone spiritually. That, in fact, the invisible realms are very well populated. Thank you very much. There's a lot going on there. We are not alone. We come in here and we feel very alone, but that's where, you're in, the rubber hits the road. We're just all alone bouncing along. But when you come to that center place, that is where, like you're connected, that the whole story of death, and that's it, it ends there and it's over. That's the part of the illusion. And it's scary if you believe in that illusion. If you believe in the illusion,
of course
you're all
it is.
alone. Death is final. You're fundamentally flawed. So you're born in original sin. These are all like these, like not even just subcurrents or like currents in this world that I think destroy our ability to find peace and joy and to function.
Well, that you want to find peace and joy, you move towards that point of view that you just described. And if you don't know any better, you find yourself in the outer limbs of the surface world, and you're victimized, and you're woe is me, and you're not happy. You're struggling all your life, bumping into things, getting taken advantage of, and so what do you do when that happens? You become like them, It's a self-defense mechanism. You lash out, you don't trust anybody. That's if we haven't experienced it personally, we've seen people do it around us enough for us to realize it can happen and it can be. And we've all felt a measure of that separation. So we know somewhat what it feels like. Some of us more clearly than others, but enough. But we know when we say that, we know what that feeling is. It's not a pleasant place. It's to hell, actually. But and I'm just saying, and you're saying in your way as well, that is not the only answer. There is a way by which you can eliminate a lot of that strife in your life. If you start to open up to the possibility and the reality, actually, that you're not alone, and that's what I talk about, and that's what you talk about as well. And we're sharing that it is there, and the only one that's barring that from you is you. Believe it or not.
Exactly, because that's where your control comes in. And I've said this story, and I love this story and I've said it over and over again about, you're on the tennis court of life, and whatever it is you don't like on the other side is serving it up to you, and you're hitting back. And so they hit it hard. You go, I'm going to hit it harder back to you. I'll show you. And it's a no-win thing because you're caught in that game. And if you don't want to play that game anymore, it doesn't end by you smashing the ball back. It ends by you walking off the court. Just walk off the stinking court. That's how that ends. And then you engage in life, not in the game of it,
There you go. Yeah. They would have you think that if you walked off the court, there's nothing for you. Zero. And that's not the case. You find if you, in fact, do that, a whole new world opens up for you that you just thought was a dream.
Yeah.
If you were going to try and imagine what it would be like, you walk through that door and you find out it's real. You're still here but you're interacting with a whole different set of circumstances, and they're a hell of a lot more pleasant. Are they perfect? Do you not have challenges? Of course you do, but it's different. And it's like walking into another reality. Even though it is a shared reality, and we all think, we're led to believe we're all on the same one reality, but we're not. We're not.
We are not. We are not. Two people can be in the exact same room. Two people can witness the exact same event, and they will tell it completely different. And you can see that when there's like upsets or things going on, and people go, no, and they see a certain thing, they read all the stuff about them into it because it's their game. They're on their court, and somebody else sees it different. I think like one of the challenging things is if you haven't done it before, you haven't developed these muscles, is the muscle of being able to walk off the court, is being able to just let go of what the known thing was, like the known way of your response to things, or you're reacting to things, or how you served it back, is just stop. Just stop that. If you don't like it, it's not working. You have to let go of that. Nobody else can do it for you because the other team ain't gonna. And you just got to stop, and then leave it. That's letting go. And sometimes it's just a matter of coming back to doing the right thing for the right thing's sake. Because somebody may say something to you and it really pushes your button. It really pisses you off. And you've got every good rational reason to why you should truth bomb them about it, why you should, be incensed by it, be insulted by it, all of that. But does that help anything? Does that resolve anything? No, it's just playing the ball game. What if you just stop that and you just love them and you just, all right, and you just were kind.
I love them.
And you didn't respond, and you just say, hey, I'm sorry for my part and what I did.
Well, that's who you are. We are, we're perfect where we are as we are. All we're saying is the journey is not over, and there's more to come.
There is.
And when you say love them, that's such a triggering word. It's so all encompassing. It's like the Eskimos have. I've been told they have like a dozen different words for snow. We say snow, and we all that we got one word for that. They got a dozen different versions of that word. And I know the Greeks have more than one description of what love is. There are, You know that. You probably ran into that in your studies along the way. There's a hell of a difference between brotherly love and sexual love, and eudaimonia is a word they use too. I even remember that one. That's a whole different thing, and it's a more precise understanding. Love is too general of a word. It implies you're accepting of everything, and that's not exactly right. You have to allow them their space. I guess you could call that a version of love, isn't it? They can still be who they are, but it doesn't mean that you have to stay in their presence necessarily or accept
This
what they're doing.
this is how I totally get it, Maurice. This is how I look at it. So in loving somebody, because you're right, it's a very imprecise word. But so I look at it like, I am the center of my world. I am my planet. And I've got all these other ones and I have different orbits around me. And
Correct.
I can love people at any ones I choose to bring into my inner orbit and close are ones I trust. And there's a certain thing I know about them
Mhm.
and that I can love and bring them in here. Other people I love, but I have to keep out there,
Mhm.
because of certain things that don't work for me. But I
Vibration.
can still love them, but they're gonna orbit farther out. They're not going to come into my inner sanctum. And there's all kinds of levels out there. We just have to find, like, if somebody violates a level, just know I don't have to get angry. I don't have to get mad, all that. They're instead of here, they're going to orbit out there,
Right.
and I can love them. I can commune with them. I don't have to be angry about it. They just are out there, and there's certain, things they're privy to out there and they're not privy to
Correct. Yep.
about
We
me.
talked about it before. I think you said it earlier today, even. It's a different vibration.
Mm-hmm.
We walk in the same, we think, well, we're told we're all on the same one reality, but we're really not. There's a whole bunch of different vibratory levels here on this earth. Even you look back again, I often refer to it with you in particular. When you were 20 years old, you were Elisa, all right, but you were vibrating at a different level than you are now. And there's a big difference. You got all of the external markers of the same person, but internally you're not that person at all anymore. And that's not saying the one that was 20 years old was bad at all. That one was appropriate for being 20 years old at the time where she was. Same thing with people. If you start taking a point of view of that, you come across with a way to walk smoothly through it all.
Hopefully.
Well, that's the idea. That's the goal. And then, of course, some people say if you get really good at it, you can walk on water.
Hey, I no doubt that we would be able to do that if we had strong enough belief, if we could vibrate. I shouldn't say I want to use that word. If we could vibrate at the right level, that would be possible. We could
Well, we've got a historical story, or at least a apocryphal historical story of somebody that actually did that.
No, it's yeah. I'm hoping this isn't going to be an editing nightmare because
It will. It'll probably come out day after tomorrow.
oh, no, I've got this afternoon set aside. I can work on it and get it edited. It's just, one of these days, sometimes we record and there's not a glitch the whole time. Then other times it's a lot, but
Yeah.
I'm hoping that most of it still
Most of this
recorded,
has
so our
not been
voices are
interrupted, but
there.
there's been a few
But
times.
yeah,
Yeah.
no, I'm here and I'm listening. I'm catching most of it. Sometimes I don't catch a little bit, but I know where you're going with
Right.
things. And
Yeah, we're
yeah, I
good.
mean yeah, it's just we are all in a different world. We're playing out our play.
Mhm.
We're playing out our script, our what we're here to do and experience. It's unique for every one of us, and how beautiful it is when you find kindred spirits that you speak the same language, you understand their play, you've got this common thing going on, and then it gets to be really fun, with like-minded people. And then
Yeah,
sometimes that changes, doesn't it? Where you
yeah, it
grow out
does.
of things.
Yeah.
And it's just like the people I used to hang around with, I wouldn't hang around with anymore. It's okay. I mean, that's kind of what it is. They'll find who they need. You find, what better reflects you, and um, it all it all keeps going around or
I'm
not.
gonna inject this because I wrote it down and I want to share it with not only you but anybody else. Some of them probably list that will listen to this have know what I'm talking about from their own having watched it. There's a series it was put out by HBO, but season 3 came out at the beginning of the month of November, and it's available online if you know where to go and get it. Which all you have to do is look for free streaming, and there's sites available. Um, rather than me, put it out over here. Well, I will. There's an outfit called Flixtor, FLIXTOR.com. That's all the hell you got to put into your search engine. It'll take you right there, and it opens up to their page. You put in the title of the series or the movie you want to see. It'll take you right there, and you can watch it for free on your computer. That's what I do.
Okay, so you kind of you froze on me, so I didn't catch it. The viewers may catch it, but what's it called, and where am I supposed to go?
Just go to your search engine, whatever search engine you use. Put in Flixtor.com, FLIXTOR.com. Go see what they have to offer, and it'll open up, and there's a search box right at the top. Put in the name of whatever you're looking for, movie or series wise. It'll go, if they've got it, and they've got damn near everything, it'll go right there, and you can watch it for free. Anyway, the series I'm talking about is called His Dark Materials. His Dark Materials. It's based on a series of books called. The first book is called The Golden Compass, and they got a couple of other books. I haven't read any of them, but I have seen the series, and I'm telling you, especially season 3, which just came out this month. Man, does that describe it cinematically so much of the way we're talking. And it's in a really, really good way. So if you have not even touched it, then I say watch the whole freaking thing from season 1. And if you've seen season 1 and 2, then season 3, let me tell you, you guys are going to love it.
Okay, I'm going to watch. I just looked it up.
It's there.
Okay, there it is.
Yep.
Okay, it was banned.
It was.
It says why were his dark materials banned? Because so it says the American Library is Lewis the atheist has been metaphorically the American Library Association 2008 banned book list identified the title as the second most challenged book in the United States.
Huh.
All the more reason I want to see this.
Hey, there was another series of similar nature that I watched several years ago, actually 4 or 5 years ago. It's called The Magicians. It's another series that's available that is really cool. It's kind of fanciful, kind of like Harry Potter, but it isn't Harry Potter. It's a different angle. But if you like the world of wizards and shit like that, because then they can be expansive, and you run into representations of some of these theories we talk about, angels and shit like that.
Oh, I love that. I love that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's really well done. I have the talking bears, stuff like that.
I love it. I will definitely look those 2 up, and I'll also put it in the description so people can Maurice recommendations.
Yeah, absolutely. Those 2 are really cool.
So if anybody's looking for it, I'll put in the description so it can be there for you.
They're not realistic, but they are in a way. They're they're like I say, it's like Harry Potter. I mean, there's no in real life there is no such thing as that the world of the wizards and the magicians like is portrayed in the movies and the books of Harry Potter. But there could be, and if there were, they do a hell of a job of describing what it would be like.
Well, I think that really strikes a chord. All those kind of things strike a chord because of the magic. And I think innately in people is that we know we have magic inside us. There's something innately there that
Mhm.
knows, that just knows that we are capable of magical things, you know? And because we are, we're not like in this vibration that we've been locked into. No, we're not capable in that. I mean, some people are. Now I learn more and more like just baby magic things of, how to maneuver and create the world that I want to live in for myself. That takes magic to do that. I can't just twinkle my nose and have it happen,
No,
but I can do
no,
other things.
you're not bewitched. You're not that one. That's a fanciful representation of what it might be. But in reality, shit happens around you that is magical if you just but see it as what it is.
Thank you. It's so true. Everything is kind of magical. Can you imagine just us being in these bodies and our awareness? And I mean, that is so magical. Like, how the heck? That's pretty dang incredible.
Well, the scientific world would tell you it's because just chance is like two rocks bumped together a billion years ago, and that's how come you are. You're just a natural reaction to
Yeah,
that.
then things started, right. And then things started wiggling, and then they wiggled in the primordial soup, and then something else started to
Well,
swim from it, and then it crawled, and then it flew. And yeah,
yeah,
it's like blah, blah, blah. That's
yeah. Well,
no
that's
evidence of that out there.
that's the
Okay. No
surface level
evidence
right there at the basic level, right?
of any of that. So
And
no.
initially, that was the reality because that's all you knew. And then you found out, wait a minute, this guy isn't as smart as he says he is. You
It's
think
so
he's a freaking magician, then you see the Wizard of Oz to the end, and you notice
behind the curtain.
there you go, and you find out that a lot of these guys in their nice suits and ties and you know yachts and all that shit, they're nothing but the Wizard of Oz.
They're so lost. They're so lost in Maya. They're not happier. They're not
Well,
smarter. They're not better people. They just, sold more of their soul.
that's it. Well, that's where they find themselves, and they're
Yeah.
doing a pretty good job of their job. But that's not for us anymore. That's for sure.
No, never was for me. I never could do
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
that part of the
You're
game,
not the
but
only
that's
one I've
okay.
met that has said that. I've met several people along the way that claim they had that kind of insight, knowledge, awareness. I mean, at a really young age, like 4 or 5
Yeah.
years old and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I mean, intentionally too. They didn't know all the answers, but they knew way the hell more than most everybody else their age, and a lot of people all of their lives. You knew at 4 or 5 years old stuff that people a lot that are, at the end of their lives they
Have
never.
never experienced, have
No,
never will. It was a blessing and a curse. Let me tell you, I should
mm,
say curse and a blessing. I thought it was a curse
that's for sure.
because
That
I
is
couldn't
for sure.
see. The illusion got popped very as a little girl. And but now I see, well, what a blessing that was. But it really made it hard because talk about not fitting in. It seems
Yep.
like it's like I can't play that game. And then I combine it with being just stinking headstrong and not wanting anybody to tell me what to do.
Yeah. Well,
You
for what it's
combine that
worth,
with it, and I just couldn't work for an organization.
for what it's worth, I was also accused of being very, very headstrong. I may not have been as overtly rebellious as a lot of as you or other people that I know. Out there fighting the fight in front of them all the time. I was more surreptitious about it, but
Yeah,
I was
I wasn't
headstrong as
either.
hell, and
Yeah, I wasn't either.
I still am, to be honest with you. I get along with people really well because I don't fight with them often. But you talk about a headstrong son of a bitch, I am. And if you get to know me really well, you'll see it too. But I'm gentle about it. At least I think I am.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I've never been like an overt fighter and stuff. I just went under the radar and just did my thing. Just let me do my thing. I want my freedom. I kind of went under the radar with things. And
That's the
it
one
just,
lesson I taught my daughter early, really early on in life. I started talking to her. That was a special project for me. for sure. I decided to be the best father there ever was if I could, and I did my damnedest to do that with her. And one of the things that I did share with her very early on in life was stay under the radar. You just used that phrase that triggered me to say that. I still, and she's in her middle 40s right now, a grown woman. Her two daughters have graduated from high school already. Um, and I still remind her periodically when we talk on the phone because she's living 800 miles away, 700 miles away. Um, Stay under the radar. Do your life your way, and stay out of the sights of those. And she knows exactly what I'm talking about, and she's lived her life that way. And yeah, she bumped into the wall a time or 10, just like we all have along the way. But she's responded. She's able to respond and progress from it rather than be stuck in something that happened to her 20 years ago.
Yeah.
She still has the memory, just like I have, and just like you do. You can recall not everything, but you can recall highlights of your teen years or your 20s. You might even remember back in before your preteens, some things. Well, in your case, it's likely very true that that's the case. You can do it if you want, but you don't live there anymore. You're living the life of a 60-year-old, 62-year-old woman, 63 maybe. I don't even know for sure.
Somewhere up there.
Yeah, somewhere up there. you you got so far as to recognize within yourself that you are. By God, I am. I am a crone. And you didn't have to have some master somewhere sitting on a hill tell you, okay, you've done this, 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 and this. Check, check, check. You are now a certified crone. Hell no, you've claimed it for yourself. That's the genuine one.
And I want to inspire other women in particular to really claim their cronehood, claim their wisdom.
Absolutely.
You've got it. It's just in you, girl. You've lived your life. You've learned your lessons. You've got wisdom in there. The world does need that. The world needs women in particular, needs men too.
Absolutely, you do. And you've got a lot of men. It's just that we don't walk around, broadcasting it. We just do it in our own way.
I am broadcasting it now.
Well, that's again, there's guys on right now, and there's actually some pretty smart, wise men online too. But there's a whole lot of people that are just, selling their product.
Right.
And in the process, there's some good products out there. They're useful, they're helpful, but they're just to be used for the moment and then moved on from, because the real journey is always and forever. It's an individual inside journey. That.
Oh yeah. It's something Jason said a while back here. I don't even know which video or something, but he was talking about, I think he was doing an interview with somebody. Oh, it may have been the one he did recently with Tessarian and David
I like Michael Tessarian. He's a good guy.
Yeah. And he said something about they're talking about their research and all their books and stuff. And Jason was saying how sometimes he reads this whole long book and there's like one line in it. It's like that one line that's like
bingo. Yep.
And that's the bingo thing. And that's true. I mean, we don't even when I'm looking at things and doing my own type of research and stuff, I may watch some crazy video on YouTube, let's say. And, I'm curious and it just goes on. It's like, no. Boom. There's something in there though that resonates. Then that's the thing that I entertain and I bring in. All the other stuff, no. So you don't have to take the whole thing. As if you're researching or listening to somebody you like, it doesn't mean you have to agree with everything. It doesn't mean you have to absorb it. You don't have to take it into yourself. It's just you may find one little part of it that works. It's discerning. Being able
That's to true. That is true. Yeah. And you learn to recognize that, trust it, and rely upon it as you get more familiar with it within yourself. That's part of that growing process again, that maturing thing that I mentioned periodically in here. That is what happens. You get better at it.
Yeah, and that's too. I think we'll kind of start to wrap this up, Maurice, just because of our connection here. But it's just the whole thing we've been talking about is just savior behavior, and coming out of that and coming into a place of your own spirituality, your own connection, developing efficiency in that, and it just all comes down to that, is just the whole. I mean, I feel like all of our talks kind of come back into the same sort of things.
We are. That's
There's only so
exactly
much. The game's only so much.
Mhm. But it's so true, and it's well, we know it, and we just we're trying to figure out ways to share that knowing full well that we can't, but we can talk about it to the best of our ability and say, yes, you are worth it. To the people that are listening, you are worth it, and there's hope for you, no matter where you are and what you're doing. And I mean all across the board. But you have to expand yourself, and then the only way you expand yourself is go within yourself. You can get all kinds of external skills and all that stuff, but that's all surfaced. It literally is. You want the quality, and the qualities within your own damn self. It literally is.
It is. And in that journey, I just also want to just reassure people, yes, you are absolutely worth it. And there's good days and bad days. There's times where you're on top of it. There's times you're a bit under it. And then you come back on top of it. And those times you're under it, you look like, don't want that, and you just reselect for yourself. There's nothing wrong if, it's like, oh no, I'm failing, or I'm really not that as far along as I think I am, because I just got real down or depressed for a few days. And like, no, just stop judging other people, stop judging yourself. Give yourself a break. Just give yourself a break with it. It's not an easy journey in this realm. It's not an easy journey. It's full of challenges, and we just find our way, and to keep finding your center stable point with it, and keep orienting out from that point, and that's not where the rubber hits the road. Pull back in. That's the game there. It's just keep not getting fooled by things out there. Come back to the real game. The real game is within.
There you go. That is exactly right. The real game, not the external.
Yeah. I
game
like them right
down.
That's a bullet point. The real game.
The real game, not the game of the con men and the hustlers, which is effectively the same thing.
Yeah, which exactly is kind of the world.
Yeah. Oh, and they use our unknowing, our ignorance, because we haven't experienced it yet, and they're smart, they're wise, they're clever monkeys. They know how to do stuff.
Clever monkeys.
But they can't. But they're aiming at. They're not aiming at the center. They're aiming at the outer limbs, and they keep a lot of people entrapped in their webs until the people work their way through it. And that's our journey, and we do it too. That's the thing. We can actually work through all their bullshit, their magic, their prestidiginate. You know what I mean? The surface magicians, the guys that have skills to maneuver.
They got skills. I've met some of them. They've got skills.
Yeah, they're
pretty good at some stuff. It's pretty dazzling until you learn that it's just a trick.
What is it to be? The word is bedazzled.
Bedazzled.
Exactly.
Oh my God. Okay. All right. Any final words, or do you think we finalized it? Finalized it.
All I'm going to tell you is, no matter who you are, where you are, you're worth a damn. Now just see it in yourself. Just see it in yourself and accept the reality. Yes. And you can, no matter what's going on, you have the ability to respond to anything that's in front of you, and you have choices in that matter. So choose wisely.
Oh my God, exactly. Choose wisely to your best of your ability every time. And it's going to vary.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, everybody, we're going to call it a Thursday. Until next week, peace from within always.